Hey, this is Ronnie LeBlanc from Expedition Bigfoot, and you're listening to The Paranormal Zone.
Look, I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen. It does happen.
A ghostly apparition in the dark of night.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Hey there, ponderers of the paranormal. You are in the Paranomaly Zone, your weekly dose of all things paranormal, strange, and mysterious. My name is Patrick Koffenberg, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host with the ghosts, the paranormal poster boy himself, the very sleepy Mike Carbonneau.
Sleepy.
Okay, yes, and I just called you Carbonneau.
Sleep.
I added an extra syllable to your last name for some reason. I didn't mean to do that. But,
You did? What was the syllable?
I said Carbonneau.
Carbonneau. Well, that's the way people usually think that it should be.
Oh, okay.
And there are factions of the family that have an I in there. Carbino.
Carbino. Ooh.
Yeah, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, that's got kind of a cool sound and tone to it, though. I like that.
There are Carbnos, there's Carbinos, and there's Cars.
It sounds like you belong in Goodfellas with that last name.
Yeah,
Carbino.
no kidding. I always thought that, but no, there's no Italiano in this family whatsoever.
Don't want to mess with the...
No, like the pasta.
Do not want to mess with the Carbino faction, that's for sure. Hey, but it's good to see you, Mike.
Yeah.
We just recorded our first two Patreon exclusive episodes from the Patreon exclusive podcast, Retro and Randoms. We did that last night, had a blast. If you guys want to check it out, we'd love to see you there. You can listen to all of it and so much more for as little as $1 a month. But man, Retro and Randoms, that was pretty darn fun, Mike. What'd you think about those?
Well, I tell you, that 50 minutes or whatever that we did for each one, it felt like about 15.
Oh, it flew by.
Yeah, it was just crazy, but very good. It was very good.
Yeah, the Retro and Randoms Patreon exclusive podcast focuses on all things pop culture because, hey, we wanted to talk things all pop culture and just have a good time talking any and everything. Yesterday was the premiere episode. The topics of the premiere episode, I should say, was the Beatles, and then episode number 2 was Vincent Kennedy McMahon because he was making news the other day for not
Vinnie Mac.
Vinnie Mac for not very good reasons. So, but yeah, they flew by, man. That was so much fun, and they're totally. You think this show is off the cuff and opinionated? I got nothing on Retro and Random. So, yeah, it's just going to get better and better. And we had a blast. We hope to see you guys there. Tons of stuff over at the Patreon page, and we're going to add more investigative material to Patreon next weekend because we are visiting. Where are we going, Mike?
We are going to Whitestone Battlefield Massacre Field.
Absolutely, and we are actually doing it this time.
Yes. Yeah, I don't have to meet Patrick in Fargo or Moorhead or wherever the heck you thought we were supposed to meet.
And as I joked last night, I am going to take off immediately following this recording just to make sure I get there on time, Mike, because God knows
next weekend
I drive so slow, not up to Mike's liking for sure. So I'm going to take off the moment we're done, and I should be there in time. So it'll be good.
He drives so slow that it looks like the screen on the computer when he locks up.
Oh, come on now. I do not drive that slow. Man, sorry I'm not a dangerous speedster like you, just flying all over the place, your hands off the wheel. I tell you, when you were driving, when I was riding with you, you make me nervous because you're in the middle
because
of.
I was doing the speed limit.
No. You were going pretty fast, and also when you're you're very animated when you're telling a story to me, and the car's like weaving over towards the right, and I'm like, good Lord, get back in the middle. Mike's just pointing at things and gesticulating, and I'm like, ah!
And sometimes I do need both hands when I'm gesticulating, so I'm steering with half a knee.
Don't like it. I do not like it. I did not feel safe. But
so who's driving to Whitestone from here?
Oh,
From
well,
my house.
just so we have enough time, you can drive. It's fine, but just keep both hands on the wheel.
I will be aware.
A minimum of one hand on the wheel at all times. Like
I will keep aware. Yes, I will keep both hands and my teeth on the wheel.
And your knees.
Yes.
And
and then from below, I will steer with my penis as well. Got all kinds of hands on there.
Enough of that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Enough of that.
enough of that.
Enough of that.
Good Lord.
Got a good hold on her.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you done? Anything else you want to throw out there? Any other vulgar references?
Well, my penis is like a monkey's tail, like an armadillo's tail. It wraps around and hangs on.
I just have the worst visual in the history of visuals just go through my mind.
It's like the foot of an orangutan holding onto a stick of bamboo.
Mike's wang has an opposable thumb for some reason, so it helps him out.
That steering wheel's got a little bit of wang on
It
it.
does add a little bit of wang to it.
Anyway.
Well, any new listeners that we got due to our Jericho appearance just left right now, so
I know.
Thanks for checking us out, but it's all good. It's all good. Yeah. Well, just hear this on this show. Just imagine what you're going to get on Retro and Randoms.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh man! Hey, we do have a pretty cool topic, though. I think it's kind of a cool topic.
It is. It's interesting. It's there's a lot that can be talked about with this.
I think so. It's definitely got a creep factor. Definite creep factor.
It does.
Well, we're talking about haunted scarecrows. Now, you may laugh. You may think it's silly, but
you may think that we had nothing we could come up with,
which could very well be true. No. This is I really do like this idea, this topic, because it is creepy. It creeps me out a little bit. Before we started recording, Mike, you had mentioned, when you're doing a little bit of research and looking into stuff earlier, that you were finding all sorts of like movie references, because there's like tons of creepy scarecrows that are
so many movies. There's like billions of them.
A billion. I'm not quite sure it got up to billions, but
which does say something. I mean, that's there's an interest out there.
A definite interest, and we're going to dive into that for sure. There's not only is there a creep factor, but a definite psychological something's going on there that just kind of hits all the eerie buttons for us normal humans. There's something fairly creepy about a damn scarecrow. I mean, that's what they're meant to be. That's what they're intended for. Yeah.
Maybe when we're talking about these movies, I can just kind of name off a list of a few of them, and some of them they sound pretty interesting, like they should be checked out.
I have a very vague memory. And I'll leave it at that. No, I'm kidding. I have a very vague memory of seeing a movie. It might have simply been called Scarecrow.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of them out there.
I don't know if it was a made-for-TV movie, perhaps. I don't recall, but I remember definitely being weirded out because the scene that's popping in my brain now is that of a person hiding inside of a scarecrow, trying to escape someone. I believe this person may have been kind of a simpleton, maybe, or he was an innocent man who was wrongly accused of something. He was hiding out in this scarecrow.
Yeah, I remember that, and somebody killed it.
Somebody
killed the scarecrow,
shot the scarecrow, and they give you like his point of view from inside the scarecrow mask.
Like you're looking through the burlap bag over his head.
And that disturbed me as a kid.
But it ensued into quite a revenge type thing, didn't it?
I think so. Man, I wish I could pull more details about that. But hey, listeners, if you know what we're talking about, let us know, because it's a memory without a name. You know what I mean? One of those type of things. But it definitely was eerie and bugged me. But Aside from that, man, just the imagery.
When would that movie have been that you saw?
I would say 80s, early to mid 80s, maybe late 70s.
Okay, let me check this out here real quick. Okay, 1981. Dark Night of the Scarecrow. See if this juggles your memory.
Sure. Are you going to read a little bit to me?
Yes. In a small southern town, 4 vigilantes wrongfully execute a mentally challenged man. But after the court sets them free, mysterious accidents begin to kill them off one by one.
That sure sounds familiar, doesn't it? I mean, that's kind of fits my memory. Yeah.
Dark Night of the Scarecrow. And on the front, it shows a scarecrow with a gunny sack over its head with the eye holes. Do
you have like a cast, or is there any actors I may remember?
Sure, I bet there is.
I want to say there's. I might recognize a guy who shot him, if my memory serves correctly. Kind of an older, pudgier man, I believe. But I'm going astray. I might be merging memories here for that one.
Oh, it was directed by Frank D. Felitta.
Don't know what that
Stars Charles Durning.
Okay.
Robert F. Lyons.
No.
Let me get into this.
I want to say, was the mentally challenged man? Did he end up like on L.A. Law or something like that? I'm all over the place Jones.
Here. Yeah, I think you. Let's see, Lane Smith. Let's see here.
This is
Tanya Crow. Larry Drake.
This is riveting for our listeners.
Larry Drake went on to be on that show. I believe that you're talking about. His name in the show was Bubba Ritter.
And he was the one who was murdered.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was the, yes.
God damn, I want to watch this movie again now.
I remember seeing that, and he played that part awesome, I think, before he was murdered.
Yes, absolutely.
Great actor. Yeah, Larry Drake.
I just remember feeling so bad for him because he was just terrified inside of that scarecrow, and you can hear him kind of whimpering because he's so scared. And I'm getting the willies thinking about it right now.
And Alice Nunn was in this movie. She played Mrs. Bunch. But when I look at the picture of her, it is actually Large Marge from...
from Pee-wee?
From Pee-wee, yeah. There's no mistaking that face.
Man, what's that called again, Mike? Dark Night of the Scarecrow?
Yeah. Dark Night of the Scarecrow.
I wanna try and find that because I want to watch that again.
Cool.
Night. That's pretty cool. You're able to find that.
And then there's a thing here too that's I don't know. It's a documentary exploring the making of the cult television classic Dark Night of the Scarecrow. This you need to check out.
Did you say television classic?
No, the cult television classic.
So it was made for TV. Okay.
Yep. Dark Night of the Scarecrow. It says Bubba didn't do it. 30 years of Dark Night of the Scarecrow.
Damn. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, don't you mean this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep it straight. You gotta warn me.
So cool.
That. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So you want to watch that with me, Igor?
No.
Oh, fine.
Pretty interesting. So there's a childhood memory brought back for you.
Yeah, that's pretty darn cool, man. Pretty darn cool.
1981. That's the year I graduated high school.
Wow. So when I was 5 in 1981. So.
Punk.
Yeah. Hey, I
graduated high school, I used to kick kids like you to the curb.
Yeah,
literally. No.
And then I just that big
never did.
That big pasty white man kicked me again today, Mom.
There's nothing against bullying back then.
No,
I tell you that.
Good.
I know that for a fact.
I know, unfortunately.
I was on the hard end of that one.
I hear you.
Anyway,
I did just turn 46 just a couple weeks ago, so I'm not so young and punkish no more, Mike. So
46.
Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah, that's right.
Sir. Do you remember being 46?
I do vaguely. I remember being 46 and keep thinking, God, I'm almost 50.
I know. Well, tell me about it, man. When I'm 50. One of our kids is going to be graduated, and my daughter is going to be just graduating herself, and then the other one's going to be becoming a senior. So it's like, good Lord.
Yeah. And now I can say I'm going to be 60 this year in just a very few short months.
Hey, you know what? Like I tell my mom, I remember a couple, and we're sorry, everybody, we're kind of going astray here. My mom, she's like, "Oh, I'm getting so old," and I say, "Mom, you know what? Mick Jagger's 2 years older than you, and he's still touring the country. So there you go."
Yeah. She can go be a groupie.
No. No. My mom would sit there and chastise them for being naughty boys, you know. And
yeah, she can help them with their Ben Gay.
Oh no. No. Well, I'll ask her. I'll see what she thinks.
Or Ben can help them with that too. I don't know.
Ben can as well. Absolutely, Ben can. So, Mike, why are scarecrows creepy? I mean, let's kind of dive into this. What is the psychological creep factor here? Yeah,
you got to think about it. Okay, this is out. Where are they usually? They're like either on the edge of or in the middle of a field. It's like if you ever been out in the middle of a cornfield,
exactly,
by yourself. It's quiet. It's freaky. You hear sounds coming from all over that you know, kind of freaky. But then if you come across this dead body looking thing wearing old clothes, hanging on a stick in the middle of all that freakiness that you're experiencing already. I mean, they're made to, I don't know if they're made to look like a dead body hanging there, but they look like a dead body hanging there.
Absolutely, they do. But yeah, and especially
well,
if
they're made to look like a human to scare the birds away. But
right. But man, some of these things look just beyond bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like, you put a lot of effort into making that. I mean, I don't think scarecrows are smart, that's for sure. But I don't think they're, ravens and all that stuff. They're not scarecrows. Good Lord. Crows are smart. But I don't think they can sit there and decipher between, well, that scarecrow. That scarecrow is not creepy enough for me. You know, I think it just has to have the basic look.
So that's why you see pictures and artwork of a scarecrow with crows sitting on the arms of it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So obviously the imagery is there. I like kind of how you set it up there, Mike. You know, your cornfields, you can get lost in those damn things.
Oh, extremely.
Yeah, and you turn a corner or you don't know where you are, you lose your awareness, and all of a sudden you just look up and whoa, there's this freaking thing looking down on you and say, nope, don't like it, don't like you.
I've been in cornfields where you cannot, and there's no way you're going to be able to see over the stalks. I've been in cornfields where the corn has been like 3 feet over my head.
Good Lord. Yeah, I believe it.
Huge.
I believe it, man.
So what you're seeing in front of you is what you're going to see until you get out.
Yeah. So let's talk about this for a little bit, because, we've covered topics such as, any number of haunted objects, maybe specifically a haunted doll, one of Mike's favorite topics,
Yeah.
Mike just loves dolls, don't you, Mike?
Yeah,
it's, gosh, talk about another potential creep factor. But I think it's safe to say that you and I are open to the possibility of an object such as a doll or a scarecrow being, quote unquote, haunted.
Well, yeah, sure. A scarecrow is just an oversized doll.
Absolutely.
That's not played with.
Now you might wonder, like, well, why that's not played with, right? It's like, well, why would a flippin' scarecrow be haunted? Well, why would anything be haunted? There's any number of reasons behind the potential paranormal connection to these. It's what were they made for? What was the intention behind the creation of these scarecrows? What, dare I say, passion and love went into the creation of these creepy freaking things. There could be malevolent intentions there, my friends. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how else to describe it other than the imagery creeps you out. The intentions behind them are to scare, whether to scare humans, scare animals away. And they're just out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, just all three of those things combined add to this atmosphere of creepiness.
Right. And why did the scarecrow go from being strictly a thing out in the middle of a cornfield to scare crows to a very huge, important piece of Halloween costume every year.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Mhm.
that's probably been going on for how many decades?
Oh, absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
know, because there's that scare factor there.
Yeah. No, agreed. Agreed. You know, one thing that we're going to talk about during this episode is not necessarily some haunted aspects of it, you know, but they're definite creepy, well, real life stories, real life creepy cases that involve scarecrows.
Mm-hmm.
Before we dive into the paranormal aspect of it, do you mind if I go through some of these stories, Mike? Hello?
I do not mind whatsoever.
Okay, gosh.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear him for a second. I was like waiting to hear him.
I was taking a drink of my Diet Coke.
I thought you were going to say you're taking a dump. Just right there, right now.
I was going to dunk a chunk.
Oh, Lord. So far this episode, we get the visual of Mike's wang wrapping itself around his steering wheel, and now the phrase...
Like an orangutan's
like
foot.
an orangutan's foot, and now we get the phrase dunk a chunk. So, very lovely. Mike's on top of his game tonight, that's for sure.
Yeah, sheesh.
Now, these are all creepy, true stories here. Again, not necessarily haunted. Well, none of these are actual haunted references here, but the first one that I have, you may have heard of this story, Mike. When I was reading this, I was like, I recall hearing this before.
Okay.
But this story revolves around a man named Albert Engel, and this took place in Wisconsin way back in 1916.
16?
1916, yes.
Okay.
So I'll try and make this as brief as I can. It says neighbors were impressed with Albert's work, so much so that they showed up on his doorstep to find out how he actually did it. And the work we're talking about here is he created a very realistic scarecrow. And people want to know how the hell he did it. Now, when they went to ask him how he did it, his family actually answered the door. And they said that Albert had not been home for the past few days. So the neighbors were all disappointed and they took off. But word got out about his almost lifelike scarecrow hanging from the tree in the cornfield. Now, the story goes, the next morning, another neighbor was riding by the cornfield when he decided to stop and check out the old scarecrow that everyone was hooting and hollering about. But when he got closer to this scarecrow, Mike, he noticed something was a little off.
Mm-hmm.
You probably know where I'm going here. The dummy scarecrow wore a wide-brimmed hat concealing its face from passerbys, but when reaching up close, the curious neighbor could plainly see that the scarecrow was actually Albert Engel himself. Police were called to the scene. Albert's death was ruled a suicide. He never took off his hat when he hung himself from the tree branch. And it's believed that scores and scores of people had passed by his hanging body, believing it was simply a harmless scarecrow.
I'm laughing, and there's nothing to laugh about that.
It's like, good Lord Almighty. It's like, yeah, where did old Albert go? Well, I might want to take a closer look at that scarecrow right there. Good Lord. Now, what's going on with Albert? He said, so he knows, that was this a long plan that he had conjured up in his mind? He's like, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. People like my scarecrows. I'm going to mess with them. I mean, I don't know. People are
or did
capable
it
of
just
anything.
organically happen and turned out that way?
I don't know, man.
I don't know. There's got to be.
That's
I
very-
don't think it was suicide at all. I think
What?
the scarecrow from the field over
Oh,
was really upset about something
do tell.
and made his own scarecrow out of Albert.
Wow. You're really jumping off a cliff there as far as...
And not surviving
not
the plunge.
no, definitely not. Make sure that noose is not around your neck before you take that plunge. Well, you know, we're going to talk about that briefly, about the idea of not only of these scarecrows potentially being haunted, but being perhaps possessed and maybe to the point of manipulation, physical manipulation. There are tales of that. That's kind of bizarre, kind of
Like an oversized voodoo doll.
very much like an oversized voodoo doll. Well, there's one story I read earlier, Mike. It was, man, I don't have the article pulled up, but I think it took place again in the early 1900s. But long story short, it involved 3 young boys who were ordered to create a scarecrow for the I believe it was the farmer that they worked for. I don't know if the farmer, if they're related to him or not.
Either that or 4-H.
Maybe 4-H. You never know. Very possible. Long story short, they created this scarecrow, and upon placing it wherever it needed to be and returning back home, they one by one were each visited by this scarecrow. This is supposed. They would wake up middle of the night or in the morning, look out their window, and guess what was peeking in their window every damn morning? The scarecrow. Now, is this just pure BS? Is this just an urban legend? The way I read it, well, not the way I read it, the way it was written made it seem like it was supposedly legit story.
I think the farmer is a pervert, and he was
go.
doing this. No. You see him tiptoeing through the tulips by the kids' windows.
Yeah, exactly. He's got
with the scarecrow in tow
and an orangutan shape. No, I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
Yeah. Enough of that, right, Mike? Right.
Enough of that.
Damn it. That is creepy, though. I mean, there's part of me that wishes that was true, just because that adds eeriness to you, but it could be just totally made up. But
could you imagine a scarecrow like that just kind of shuffling along?
Shuffling! I don't like that.
Down the street with these feet of hay trailing behind, dragging, like leaving little pieces of straw and hay like along the trail.
I don't like that. I'm picturing it like hunched over with its like hands dragging on the ground as well.
Yeah.
It's just,
and the hands, there's no hands. There's just hay hanging out, and the head. There's no neck or stick in the neck, so the head is kind of flopping as it's moving with each step. Oh my god!
That was a visual.
But then you hit it with a pickup and it's done.
That's done.
Yeah, he's not going to get up again.
No, but unless of course you stop the pickup and you look back to see the damage you left, and it slowly starts to like congeal again.
It comes back together.
The hay and the straw just all starts coming together and forming this. Yeah, no, don't like it. Like, a great story, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
This next one is kind of similar. Another morbid story involving a scarecrow. In 1953, a group of workmen were clearing the fields in how do you pronounce that? Langain, Wales. Langain, Wales, maybe? Anyways, they're clearing the fields there. Now they're gathering up old debris and tossing it into a bonfire. Now, at one point, the men found actually an old scarecrow scattered amongst all the debris in the undergrowth. They wrenched its old scarecrow corpse out and tossed it into the fire with the rest of the junk. But as the scarecrow's old, tattered clothes began to burn away, the men spotted, you guessed it, Frank Stallone. No, they spotted...
Yeah, where has he been?
They spotted bone underneath the burnt clothing.
Bone.
Now jolted out of their humdrum work, the men returned to the place where the scarecrow was found and discovered a skull and a set of false teeth. Now, it was too late to rescue the dry, burning bones. Police were still able to identify the body from the dentures. They were made from one Ethel Winifred Collins, age 66.
And they could tell what Ethel had last to eat because it was still stuck in her dentures. Dried right. And...
yeah. Mm-hmm. massive chunks stuck.
A little bit of pastrami with some dried up mozzarella cheese.
Oh, God damn it. I'm never going to eat mozzarella cheese again. Damn it.
But one lone maggot on it.
Okay, come on now.
Anyway, go ahead.
But sadly, Ethel had been missing for several months, and, well, she was found. So
sorry, Ethel, I didn't need to make fun at your
Ethel's laughing.
Lost dentures.
Wherever she is, Ethel's laughing.
Yeah, well, was there any backstory to how Ethel could have,
ended up there
and put into this situation, or she was just missing?
That I don't know. I
okay. I had to ask.
I have to profess my ignorance when it comes to that one. I do not know.
It's not your fault.
Yeah, I'm just
you're born that way.
I'm just naturally ignorant. That's a band name. We're naturally ignorant. We'll be here all week.
Yeah.
This one isn't really creepy at all, but it's just weird and dumb.
Well, those are good too.
It says here that this article starts off, it says, some people should live in homes where there are no neighbors in sight, while others are simply too crazy to live next to. For instance, the story of Mary Hammond of California, who hated the very sight. She hated the very sight of her neighbor, Luigi Lugo.
So we end up with a Luigi Lugo scarecrow.
Well, it's whether it was something he did, how he acted, or through no fault of Luigi's, we will never know, but his face simply infuriated Mary to the point.
But she liked the Mario.
She liked the Mario, hated Luigi.
Mario was okay. Mario, come and make a spaghetti. Yes.
We apologize.
Luigi knows so much.
We apologize to any listeners in Italy right now. That Mike is just offending profusely.
I am doing a Luigi and Mario imitation.
You are.
It has nothing to do with our great friends and
all right,
greatly loved listeners and possibly that we have in Italy.
Yes, that's true. Well, yeah, we do actually. That was one of the. Well, I won't say anything. I was going to mention.
Sorry, Italians.
Charts.
We do love you.
Sorry, Italians.
What? Is that a political faux pas? I'm sorry. Hey, I'm a USAian, so they can be an Italian.
Man alive. Okay.
I'm sorry.
So now we have Duncan Chunks, whatever the hell you said, orangutan-shaped wangs, and apologies set directly to all Italians. So we're on fire tonight.
Okay.
Oofta. Anywho, she hated his face. She hated Luigi's face. So much so that when he put up a scarecrow in 1911 that looked almost exactly like himself, that made Mary go nuts. Really? So she trudged over to his home, grabbed a hold of the scarecrow, and quote-unquote brained it, beheaded it, and tore it limb from limb. The poor scarecrow was eventually totally dismembered, and Mary was arrested for battery. So that's the extent of that story.
She was arrested for what?
Battery.
Against a scarecrow?
Against a scarecrow. So, well, I guess you can have battery if it's someone's property, right?
Oh, sure. Vandalism.
Yep.
But then, I was thinking that, okay, this is going to end up where it was actually Luigi dressed up for Halloween to scare the kids. And she beheaded him.
No. Oh, that'd be horrific. Oh,
anyway.
My goodness gracious. So apologies to Luigi and his...
I'm really feeling bad about Italy right now.
No, it's fine, man. It's okay. It's funny. Our listeners know us, that we know that they know that we mean nothing wrong to anybody ever. So
yes.
All right, this one is pretty interesting. This takes place during World War I in 1914, the first year of World War I. Now, this story goes: the French were on the move, but so was the nearby Baden Regiment. The French force knew they had to think fast if they were to survive another day, Mike. The fog was thick, and the French realized it could be used to their advantage. The men rushed into a nearby field and, gathering sticks and other field debris, made scarecrows that from a distance in the fog looked like helpless soldiers. They placed their caps on the stick scarecrows, and the men hid themselves ready to ambush the enemy. A few of the French were sent ahead and lured the German troops to the field. At the sight of the scarecrow figures, the Germans charged. As soon as the Germans were well into the trap, shots rang out from three sides. Over 100 men of the Baden Regiment were killed.
Caught him in a crossfire.
Utilizing old scarecrows, man.
So that sounds very legit. I could see that happening, yeah.
Very, innovative war tactic, that's for sure.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know of how many times something like that would have been used in different wars.
Yeah, Computer Mike agrees. This story here involves a B.C. Rogers and his wife, whom were heading home by horse and buggy one Saturday afternoon back in 1903. From across the river, they saw a boy and a woman standing along the bank. Then, to their absolute horror, they saw the boy lift the woman into his arms and toss her into the wild rapids below.
The boy?
The boy.
Lifted the woman.
That's what it says.
Okay.
Barely able to believe his eyes, Mr. Rogers stopped his horses and ran to the water's edge. He looked to find the woman, but he could not see a single trace of her. When he looked up, he saw the boy run off and vanish into the Vermont scenery. Feeling as though he had to do something, Rogers ran to the nearest village and returned with 2 men to help him find the body of the woman. Still no trace of her could be found. Rogers eventually returned to the buggy, took the reins, and rode to the nearest farm across the river. There, he talked to the farmer and soon discovered that the farmer's grandson had taken the old Scarecrow to the river's bank and tossed it in.
Of course. That's
That was not a woman. It was a Scarecrow that he tossed in.
It's like idiot kids, like on top of a bridge, throwing a dummy down on cars below that are driving.
No. Yeah, that's
horrible.
That's absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. More stories of mistaken identities. Stone throw away mistaken identity. I'm just kind of perusing through these. Incredible rescue. Some of these are creepy. Well, I mean, some of them do seem kind of bizarre and creepy already. The ones that I've shared.
Oh, absolutely.
This one took place early half 1900s, Australia. Australia littered with scarecrows hanging from the trees because barely anyone took notice of them until they turned out to actually be the bodies of some poor lost souls. It says here in 1924, a boy was searching for his cattle around Smithfield, New South Wales, when he came across what he thought was a scarecrow hanging from a fig tree. He told his father about it, and the father, being wiser, contacted the police and returned with them to the spot. There they found the hanging body of Charles Valentine Lamb, aged 54. Later in 1935, boys reported seeing a scarecrow hanging from a fig tree in Clontarf, Queensland. A few days later, a man spotted the scarecrow, went to investigate it, and of course he found it to be the body of a suicide victim. A lot of similar stories here, and people mistaking these scarecrows as being a scarecrow, but upon closer examination, no, sir.
This was in a fig tree?
A fig tree, yeah.
It wasn't suicide. He ate too many figs and bloated.
I was going to say...
He bloated to death.
I was going to say... this is a good... This last example here, the first sentence, women scarecrows were seldom made. And
not for
true.
hanging in a field when they were.
No, that's it's like why, that's interesting. That's kind of interesting when you think about it. Women scarecrows were seldom made in the recent past, but in the early 1900s, there were some gruesome reports of very real female scarecrows. For example, 1906, a newspaper article, Mike, made its rounds throughout the United States, telling of a Hungarian farmer, Eugene Plodzi, who was such a penny pincher that when his wife passed away, he took her body and set it up in his orchard. Thanks, Eugene. It was discovered that he was using her body to scare the birds away from his fruit trees. I mean, what better way to treat your wife? Thank God she's finally gone. I can put her to use. Good Lord, Eugene. Now, again, this time...
Refuse to do the dishes, will ya?
I'll show you. I hope she came back and haunted his ass, man.
Oh, no kidding. Dressed like the scarecrow.
Oh, terrifying. This example, again, this time in Amsterdam in 1910, it was reported that a farmer's wife had passed away. While the marriage appeared to have been a happy one, the farmer reportedly loved his crops more than her. After she died, guess what he did? Marriage. He dressed her corpse in one of his old suits and set her up in the orchard behind his house to scare off the birds. Oh, of course he did. Now, the neighbors spotted the scarecrow wife 2 days later and reported the husband to the authorities. The farmer caught wind of the neighbor's discovery, so the wife was, of course, nowhere to be found. Yeah, because he caught wind of it. He's like, oh, shit, I got to get my wife out of the orchard. Now, finally, it says, Elizabeth, a former Pennsylvania native, recently moved to the beautiful state of Massachusetts. Oh, wait, no, forget it. That's the writer of the article. Sorry. I pulled with Joe Biden right there. Just keep, whatever Burgundy, whatever you put
What's
on the
that
prompter.
Scarecrow doing up at the podium talking politics? Oh.
No, it's, I'm not, that is worthy of making fun of, no matter what side of the political aisle you sit on. But my God,
exactly.
When you sit there and you literally read out loud everything on the prompter, including repeat the line, continue to next page, shit like that. It's like, oh my God.
Oh well.
Oh well, it happens to the best of us, I suppose. So these are kind of interesting and creepy, though. But those are my examples. I skipped a bunch there, Mike. But don't mess with Scarecrows.
You could go on and on and on, I bet.
No, absolutely. I just and again, what a douchebag to do that to their wives.
Yeah, and more than one story. You think that would be a pretty isolated, unique event?
you would hope it would be,
Yeah.
But
boy.
I mean, unless the other one took influence from the other, it's like, boy, that was a great idea there, buddy.
Yeah, it's like when they first get married, does something go through the guy's mind like, someday I'm going to find a great use for you.
Someday, use for you. I'll find a great use for you.
Yeah, that's just crazy. But yeah, people are people.
So, Michael, why do you think a scarecrow could and would be haunted? Let's talk about that for a little bit here. Is there anything that jumps out immediately to you, or is it basically kind of similar reasons for any object being haunted?
Well, the first thing I think of is a dead woman being made into a scarecrow. I mean, jeez.
That's a great example. Man.
It would have to be the right circumstances at the right moment, all converging on at one time. Like the making of the scarecrow, maybe the what was going through the maker's mind. Was it an evil person that had thoughts that and energy that he put into this thing?
Yep. That was the bone, wasn't it? That was Macy. That was Mary's bone.
No, that was Macy's bone. You should see Mary's bone. You should see that thing.
No, I
Sorry. This has got like Patreon content going on here.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that, listeners.
No, that's okay.
What are you, a couple of nitwits?
I think so. I think so, Henry. Well, one thing that popped in my mind, I guess it's more of a question, shocking. Does the physicality, now open your mind a little bit here, Mike. Get your thinking cap on.
It is.
Does the creepy
thinking scally is on?
The thinking scally is fired up and ready to go. Does the physical creepy appearance of a scarecrow make it somehow more susceptible to a haunting? Does that sound bizarre?
No, it sounds great, because what if everybody that comes across it and sees it just throws that fear energy into it? As soon as they see it, it's like right from their eyeballs to what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point.
And that energy that's put into that scarecrow from each person that has that fear that all of a sudden, comes around the corner of a cornfield or whatever and sees that.
That's a great point.
Energy put in.
I like that. I like that a lot. Why not?
It's not me. It's the scally.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, because we've talked about that several times about something perhaps being imprinted in
very
an area.
much imprinted. Yeah, very
and
good
for emotional reasons, maybe such a terribly tragic occurrence happened, and the emotional leftover, the energy residue, so to speak, is left there. It's imprinted there. I can see this, like you said, Mike. There's perhaps so much fear conjured up by the sight, by the imagery of this object. Why couldn't it? Why could it not imprint itself somehow? Now, could it happen so much to the point of the object itself being able to manipulate itself, somehow coming to life? I love that idea because it's creepy as hell. I don't necessarily think that's possible.
No, it's not.
It's okay that we don't think it's possible, but man. Well, again though, I'm gonna take a step back.
Okay.
Who are we to say that it isn't possible?
Right. We're just conjecturing here, so we are putting our thoughts into it, and who are we to know for sure? I mean, we believe in energy causing a residual haunting, for crying out loud, that is recorded in time in a certain spot.
Right.
Why can't something like that happen to an inanimate object such as a scarecrow?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I agree. I'm not. It's safe to say that we don't personally believe it has happened, but we are also not totally negating the possibility.
Yeah. You and I are just tiny specks on this entire planet and universe.
And I'm tinier than you. So I'm the tiniest of the specks. You're the big.
I'm working on it.
You're the no. I was making fun of myself there.
Yeah, I know.
I'm a mini speck. So let's see here. What else did I want to bring up here, Michael Carbno, my good friend, my good buddy, my good pal. Okay, Mike, this just popped in my head. Quite literally just popped in my head.
Mm-hmm.
We maybe briefly kind of referenced it earlier. And if we did, I apologize. But we're good at repeating ourselves. The idea of something being created, the intention of this creation is simply to frighten, simply to scare, which in a lot of ways, most ways, if not always, is a negative thing. Is it not? Is scaring someone a negative? What do you think about that first and foremost? Is that purely negative or can it be positive?
It depends on the intent. Is it like waiting for somebody to come around the corner, you scare them and they all laugh?
Yeah, sure.
Is it
but if the intent is good, the guy can still have a heart attack and drop dead.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Is the intent bad to scare crows away from eating your livelihood and your crop?
No, definitely not there. I don't think so.
Right.
But let's say this item, this object was simply, these stories we read earlier about flipping Albert Engel who killed himself. Yeah, he was creating these scarecrows. It's very realistic, horribly frightening scarecrows to garner interest, to creep out people. So if something is made, see, Macy has her thoughts now. If something is fabricated with the intent to scare other humans, does that add to its likelihood of somehow becoming a haunted object? For lack of a better term, haunted object.
That is taking or putting that negative energy into that.
Again, yeah.
Yes.
The intentions are there. So, it's,
that
even,
evil intent as it manifests as an energy on the object that's being.
So is that object in a way then haunted by its creator?
Created, or it's haunted by the energy created by the intent of its creator.
So therefore it would.
Yeah, that could be said as being haunted because of its creator.
Because the material itself doesn't have a say in it. You see where I'm going on this? This stuff doesn't have a conscience. It has no idea it's being made.
Mm-hmm.
And then, perhaps this energy is captured because of the not so good thoughts of its maker,
Right.
So.
Well, think of a scarecrow being made for a specific reason of that.
Yeah.
By somebody like John Wayne Gacy or Ed Gein.
Good Lord Almighty.
And they're making this scarecrow to for whatever reason that might help them in their line of what they do.
I just had a horrifying thought of the possibility of when you mentioned Ed Gein, and we all know what he did. If you don't, we did a Sick and Twisted on this. I was going to jokingly call him a wonderful individual, but I can't even say that jokingly. By this sick and twisted man, my horrible thought I had, Mike, was his little trinkets, his little toys, his little creations that he had in his house. Are they somehow sadly, tragically, forever affected in the afterlife by what this man did with their remains?
Not in the afterlife, because
I would hope not.
I think the energy that comes from the physical is just whole and complete and has nothing to do with that that physical form.
It's the thought of your body being absolutely desecrated,
Yeah,
and you have
there could be ghosts that are really pissed off.
yeah, I know. Yeah, they're just.
Could you imagine all of the people that Ed Gein had killed and taken parts and skin parts off of them? All of them come back to Ed Gein, take those pieces that were cut off of these people, and their ghosts cut the pieces that he took from them off of him.
Ooh.
And replace them with these dried up pieces that he took from these bodies, just as a revenge.
Man, that's morbid.
Keeping him alive throughout the entire process.
Wow. Sounds like Mike's had some deep, disturbing thoughts going through his brain.
I mean, that just came to my
I know
my head when we were talking about that. All these parts and pieces that he took off of bodies that, yeah. Anyway, go listen to the episode. It was pretty awesome.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, I guess kind of similar. Well, not necessarily similar, but I'm also thinking back again to Albert Engel and about him creating these realistic scarecrows, and eventually he hangs himself. And so he obviously
to become one himself. Yeah.
He wanted to become one himself, and he obviously had mental problems. Unfortunately, you wonder how deep and how much he devoted himself to the creation of these wickedly eerie, scarecrows, and how maybe it was just doing that made him sink deeper into his depraved mind, I guess.
It'd be kind of worth checking into his story and see how much research and info can be brought up on that for an episode.
That'd be interesting.
Going into the backstory of this guy.
That's a possibility for
What's
sure.
his name again? Let me write that down. I got my note thing here.
Albert Engel.
Engel.
And Engel is Engel. Albert Engel.
Yeah.
Hey, it's time for compare and contrast. Compare and contrast time, boys and girls. Okay, Mike, say your yeah. Say your yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, which one? Okay, now we have to try to confuse our listeners. Which one's computer and which one's Mike?
Yeah. Oh, I did that bad.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
Okay, see, it gets tougher and tougher, doesn't it?
Yeah. The more you do it, the more I can kind of hone in on that tone.
Before we run out of time here, I wanted to clarify that story I shared earlier today about those boys and the scarecrow that they were supposedly haunted by that kept on appearing at their window.
Right.
That is an urban legend, and it goes by the title of Harold the Scarecrow. And this
Harold the Scarecrow,
and I think this might be the basis of the Scarecrow story in the book Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
I think they should have called him Monty. But Harold, that's fine. Sorry.
Okay, whatever. And the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I think, was made into a movie as well. It's a children's book, but the movie made the stories pretty darn creepy. But to clarify, so this happened a long time ago on a farm in Edmonton. Story goes, 2 brothers lived with their grandparents, and every day they had to work in the cornfields. But of course, the crowds of crows were always there annoying everybody, and so the 2 brothers had to chase them away all the time. One day, one of the brothers suggested that they should make a scarecrow. So they got to work. They named the scarecrow Harold after their old neighbor who had recently died. Well, there's a bad start right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, unless it was made with honor. The 2 boys laughed as they made Harold's black beady eyes and his evil grin. They set up in the field and walked away very satisfied. That night, the 2 brothers were bothered by strange noises coming from the outside. One of them joked, "It's Harold!" But after a while, they both fell back to sleep. The next morning, they found Harold leaning against their bedroom window. But they convinced him...
trail of hay behind him.
Right. But they somehow convinced themselves that was just the wind. It was just the wind. Now, this happened for 3 straight nights. And they woke up every morning to find Harold now in different places. This began to creep them out and give them the spooks, obviously. So one day the two brothers were walking to the pasture to milk the cows, and when one of them said, "We forgot the milking stool." None of them wanted to go back to the barn, for the cornfield was across the barn, and good old Harold was right in the middle of that cornfield, on their way. The older one finally said he'd do it and left. The younger brother waited at the pasture for about a half an hour before he headed back in search for his brother. As he walked back, he worried himself about old Harold, saying, "What if Harold got him?" "Nah," he told himself. As he neared the barn, he heard a thumping noise, looked up to the barn roof, and there was Harold, trotting around a dead, torn-up body, drying it in the sun. Huh. Urban legend, more than likely. Any basis of truth behind it? Perhaps.
Yeah, but, it could be true, but why, if they're afraid of this scarecrow thing, if it was me, just keep a match on you.
Wait for a warm, dry day. Well,
yeah, just like a squirt bottle full of gasoline and a match.
And I just thought of that too, but maybe not so much because you don't want to burn down your entire cornfield or the entire town.
But would you rather have
town.
that or have some scarecrow, circling around your dead body?
I don't like
torn
that.
up.
Yeah, that's not good.
Screw the cornfield.
Maybe there's got to be a water well around there somewhere. Couldn't you throw them down the water well? Well, no, then the damn water well would become haunted. I suppose.
Burn up a cornfield. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to have popcorn for everyone.
Ooh, yummy. Yeah.
So
with a tinge of scarecrow. Feeling a little peckish for scarecrow. Well, there you go.
A little peckish.
Peckish.
Now a little peckish for some scarecrow.
Hey, I like that word. It's a good word.
Yeah, you put a little scarecrow, get a peckish in the pie, and you'd be fine.
Well, okay, we're saying peckish way too often, so that's time to wrap it up, Mike. Any final thoughts? Sincerely, I mean this is it's an interesting topic. How much we buy into it, that's for our listeners to decide for themselves, and they can probably figure out where we stand on it. I definitely think it's a possibility for sure.
Yeah,
and why wouldn't it? Why wouldn't it be? But you got any final thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, well, you just dive into it and try to separate reality from fantasy, and just see where you end up.
Words of wisdom from Mike Carbno.
Words of wisdom.
What was the last scarecrow you've seen in real life?
Oh, geez.
I don't even remember.
Probably the one that was all he wanted was to look for a brain.
No kidding. Yeah, that might be the same for me too, man.
I live in farm country.
Yeah.
And I travel all around it.
Mike,
for a long.
Mike,
I
had a great idea when we are on our road trip to Whitestone. You said there's a couple of spots along the drive there that we may be able to check out. You said there's maybe an abandoned church that. Not saying we're not going to do any illegal stuff here, everybody. Just
no.
Out there.
There's no illegal stuff, but on the road that I go to see one of my patients down this road, the road that I take a right to see him, but at that exact same intersection, if I take a left, that's taking me to Whitestone, 6 miles down that road.
Okay.
So it's right in that area. But if I'm going towards where my patient lives, you can see these trees, and as you're driving and getting closer to these trees, you start seeing the top of something wood coming. It's coming, you're seeing more of it as you drive. And then it gets to where you see like this wooden cross, old and weathered, just like it's just sticking above the trees. And then as you keep driving further, you see the steeple and the bell tower.
Cool.
And then you see the front of the church, or most of it. And it's kind of, it's probably about a quarter of a mile from the road.
Okay.
You can get a really good look at it. And it's just so awesome. Weather beaten.
I love
very old church. And when you get even with it, when you're driving, there's a road that goes to it, but it only goes so far. And then it's all overgrown where you can't, they only mow it and keep it clean up to a certain point. And then you can't drive up to it. But if you keep going and you take the first left, I was figuring that when we go out there, we'll take that left and see if we can get around to the back of where this church is. There might be a road back there.
Okay.
So if we can check it out, we will. If like, of course, if it's posted or anything like that, or like we're not going to do anything that we shouldn't do, but maybe we can get close enough to take some really cool pictures of it. Who knows? But
absolutely,
it's just really, really awesome. So we will see about what we can do with that. And there's a lot of little old country cemeteries around. We could, stop at a couple of them if you wanted to. And
absolutely, man.
So yeah, it'll be a great day.
And
as long as you make it out there, out here.
Well, I'm leaving immediately following this, so I should get there.
That's right.
I was thinking, if we had time, and we don't have to go, trolloping through the cornfields, hand in hand, skipping away. But
if I only had the brain,
maybe
we could be singing the heart thing or whatever.
Maybe we'd be lucky enough to come across a scarecrow. Wouldn't that be kind of
hard?
Wouldn't that be kind of cool?
The noise.
To think in sorry. To think of, perhaps stumbling across a scarecrow after doing an episode solely based on potentially haunted scarecrows. That'd be cool. I think that'd be cool. I'd like that.
So, and I tell you, out there's a lot of corn.
Well, sure.
And and it's corn's coming up good out here this year. So
I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a good day for paranormal.
Oh, it's going to be awesome.
Well, thanks, Mike, for making this work. I appreciate it. I know you're going to go do some grilling yourself here. I got a big old steak I'm going to throw on the grill. Very nice. Very nice. I just got
done. Mary and I are staying up a little bit later because the new episode of 90 Day Fiance is on.
I heard you say that earlier.
Yeah, Mary's been into that for a while, and then I started watching it, and it's like, man, I got really sucked into this.
Wow.
This idiotic show where these people are all a bunch of crazy nuts trying to get married to some, somebody they don't know from another country, which from another country is a great thing.
Yeah.
Macy
doesn't agree.
The culture combinations can be wonderful, but they don't know each other, and the cultures can be so different. And boy, do they clash.
Did you want to go on? Did you want to say anything else about it?
No,
I feel like I've seen it.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, but this was a great episode. I enjoyed it.
I hope it was fun. I hope listeners, you enjoyed it too. Final thoughts for me. I definitely think it's possible. I absolutely 100% believe in haunted objects, the possibility of haunted objects. So what would be different about haunted scarecrows? I mean, to the point of them being able to, quote unquote, come to life or manipulate themselves and move around to go lean up against kids' windows and scare the shit out of them. Yeah. To that extent, I don't know, but who's to say? We do not know for certain, but
just remember the gasoline in the match.
Yes, please do.
You'll be fine.
Well, Mike, on those final words of wisdom, what do our paranormal pals need to do?
Peace out, everybody.